come to learn me, baby. Change you never could. Why must you always test my will? If I told you weren't, I told you over and over. Over and over. Over and over. Cause I'm prone to overload. I know you tried to warn me, baby. It was long before the fall. I needed substance in my life. Cause I'm prone to overload. Cause I'm prone to overload. I've been thinking about you, baby. Doesn't do me any good. I'm feeling busted, get at the root. Cause I'm prone to overload. Cause I'm prone to overload. Prone to overload. Prone to overload.
Friday night, we're off to the races. Come and see familiar faces. Uncle Meat, Rob Daniels, Jon Snow. Gibby's here, it's the place to go. Grab a star of rock with Mike and the Bad Metal Band. Grab a star of rock and hold on tight as hard as you can. Keyboard's here, it's time for a party. And Chris has got the comment started. Grab a star of rock with Mike and the Bad Metal Band. Grab a star of rock and hold on tight as hard as you can. Grab a star of rock. Grab a star of rock.
Welcome. I bid you welcome to Grab a Stack of Rock, featuring the return appearance of the dude himself, Mr. Mike Slayen. Mike, how are you?
I'm great, man. It's been years since I've seen you.
It's been 2 years. We
2
did
years?
the
Man, we gotta
Riffs
do
of
this
the
more
80s show 2 years ago.
Wow.
So
We gotta
guys,
do this more often.
Peter and Johnny, like to introduce you to my buddy Mike. We had him on 2 years ago. We did 2 shows together, the Riffs of the 70s and the Riffs of the 80s. And Mike actually played the riffs for us as we went through our lists. Mike, I'd like you to meet Peter Kerr from Australia, Johnny Metal from Alabama.
What's up, guys?
Nice to meet you, Mike.
You too. Likewise.
Good to meet you.
Well, as you guys know, we are here tonight to discuss the Prince of Darkness himself. This was a subject that was brought up by Peter. Now, Peter, you just interviewed Bob Daisley recently, who
Yes, I
is
have.
on and co-wrote many of the songs we're going to talk about tonight.
Absolutely. No, it was a joy to interview Bob. He's a legend, and his fingerprints are all over the Ozzy Osbourne career, so you can't deny that.
Excellent. Now, as you guys know, we usually like to start the show with a little thing called Ask Harrison, but my co-captain, Harrison, has been ill and will be ill for the foreseeable future, so we hope he has a speedy recovery. We want him to come back. Instead of doing Ask Harrison tonight, I thought I would do a quick unboxing, which relates to next week's Monday show and a band that Peter was curious about earlier. Remember, you asked me earlier about a band called Brighton Rock. Well, I have a show coming up on Monday with an old pal named Len LaBelle that I went to high school with. He's going to be co-hosting the show for the very first time, and I'm going to need a Swiss Army knife. And we are talking about a Niagara Falls, Ontario band called Brighton Rock, and it's good old commercial hard rock done the Canadian way. And when I was doing the research for the show, I realized there was something I was missing in my collection. and they packaged it really well. There we go. This is a 7-inch single for a track called Can't Wait for the Night, which is a ballad, and apparently it's a remix. Yes, it is. It says here, single mix with guitar solo, which I probably have never heard. So tune in Monday for Brighton Rock with me and Len LaBelle, and we will have a good time talking about some Canadian hard rock. We have Henry Wright in the house. We have Jax Russell in the house. We have Gareth Thomas all the way from Wales. And look at that. We have fans of both Peter. Well, we have a fan of both Peter and Johnny here. Excellent. Well, you guys ready to start with some Aussie lists?
Let's do it.
Okay.
Yeah, let's get to it.
So as far as I know, the only real rule here is we all pick solo Aussie tracks. Am I right? We all stuck to that rule? Okay. Excellent. Mike, you being the first on the docket here and the longest since your last appearance, I would like you to go first with your number 5 favorite Ozzy Osbourne track.
All right. Are we doing any kind of honorable mentions tonight, or are we just doing 5 and out?
If we do honorable mentions, let's do them at the very end.
Gotcha.
And I know Johnny Metal and I both have guest lists that we'll be reading along with our main lists.
So for me, the first 4 Aussie songs were no-brainers. It's the 5th slot that I had about 4 songs rotating around. It's probably switched about 100 times in the last month since you told me about this. Made my little Aussie playlist on Spotify, and I just listened to it. I'm like, no, it's that one. No, it's that one. So I'm not going to be happy either way about number 5. And only 5 is not cool, Mike. You got to do at least 10. I mean, come on.
That's the challenge, man. That's the challenge, right? My friend.
Yeah, that's cool. So anyways, number 5 for me is You Can't Kill Rock and Roll. I just couldn't leave it out. I mean, that epic solo at the end, it's kind of a haunting chord progression, and then it builds up, gets to the heavy part, and then that, like I said, that solo at the end is just so ethereal and just cool.
It is. It's in the way it just kind of slowly fades.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of fade outs, but that is one effective fade out on that song.
Brilliant pick, Mike. We're off to a heck of a good start with that pick. What I like about that song is it's almost like 2 songs in one. You know, you get that nice acoustic bit, and then it just slams on the chorus.
Exactly.
And Peter Jones is in the house with Sharon.
I hope Sharon's watching, actually.
I hope so, too. Maybe we will eventually get to talking about what happened with one of your recent shows, Peter. That was quite exciting. But it's Johnny Metal's turn at this point with his number 5.
Okay. All right. Well, before I do my number 5, I'm going to do one of my guest list people.
Now, just noticed it.
So, yes, my Ozfest 97 outfit today. So that's anyway. So I have a guest list from a fellow that we did a show on my Wasp Wednesday series. The person that I lovingly call Jake, not from State Farm. And so Americans will get that one for sure. But anyway,
I got it.
So there you go. His number 5 was something. He has a couple from this album. But he started off with his number 5 as Latimer's Mercy from the Scream album.
Uh-huh.
I had not heard the Scream album. So I actually had to listen to that. And I'm like, okay, I could kind of see why he picks this. Not a bad track. I think I need to listen to that album a little bit more. Probably need to listen to the rest of it too. But my pick, however, is a B-side, believe it or not.
Okay.
And this would be the B-side from the See You on the Other Side single.
Okay.
I'm talking about the song Amy. I just found that song, I don't know, there was just a hauntingly beautiful thing about that song for whatever reason. I think, Ozzy's trying to maybe realize hey, I wasn't such a good friend. Probably talking about his first wife, I'm guessing, and probably
Amy's his oldest daughter.
And Amy's his oldest daughter was Sharon. And maybe maybe it was a nice song to her, say, hey, daddy's on the road all the time, and daddy's not the greatest person, but I still love you with all my heart. So I just thought it was a beautiful little track. So
yeah,
Amy it is.
Not the last B-side we will see tonight. Spoiler alert. But Johnny, I give you credit. First of all, I give your friend credit for going to the Scream album and give you credit for starting with the B-side. So bravo. Peter, you have already got a lot to live up to, and you're the founder of this list. So lots of luck.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Well, I'm going to start off with this was my album of the year when it came out, Patient Number 9. And the song is Degradation Rules.
Yes.
Man, Tony Iommi has still got it. Pulls out one of the most deepest groove riffs that you could hear. It is easily the best song on the album. It's got harmonica that brings back a lot of that early Sabbath, of the first two albums. It's got Chad Smith thumping the drums and Robert Trujillo on bass. It's a cracker of a song. And I know this album polarized a lot of people, but I like it. I don't care that Ozzy's vocals have been processed, auto-tuned or whatnot, but the performances and the songwriting is so strong. To be quite fair, after No More Tears, I have not liked an Ozzy album until this album. And I think it's a crack of a track. Degradation Rules. It's just so deep and powerful.
So I've been talking to Johnny Metal a lot on the side here about our love of Ozzy. And there seems to be sort of a common thread about a drop-off point at some point and then maybe a return. I agree with you completely about Patient Number 9 being a great album. I didn't like Ordinary Man at all. I played them both this week doing my research, and I liked Patient Number 9 still. We are like a year and a half after its release, and I still like it.
Yeah, absolutely. And Andrew Watt from this album went to the Rolling Stones. So he is the producer extraordinaire. Whatever he's touching has got the Midas touch at the moment. Like him or hate him, he's the it sound at the moment.
And not bad for a guy who kind of started off as a sideman in a Glenn Hughes project.
Absolutely.
Peter Jones with Perry Mason from the Osmosis album. We have already 2 picks from the Osmosis era, and this would have been Roger's pick, I think, because Roger told me that's the song that really got him to love Ozzy, or one of the songs anyway. My number 5 pick. Now, again, I wish Harrison was here tonight. So in his spirit, in his honor, I decided to do a number 5 pick that was will get me disqualified. So my number 5 pick is Close My Eyes Forever. Ozzy co-wrote it. It counts. It counts. It's a great ballad. I remember when this came out, I thought, you know what? This is one of those songs that should have been on Ozzy's album and Lita's album. It should have been on both. This is the only Lita Ford I have. This is the only CD I have in her collection, in my collection. I can't remember who I was talking to earlier today. It might have been Tim Derling, but our fanship for Lita is not super duper strong. But damn, if Close My Eyes Forever isn't world class. And if you've ever seen the music video, sorry, go ahead, Peter.
Yeah, I'm warming to Lita. I was like you. I've never sort of thought her solo career was much chop, but I've listened to a couple of solo albums, and I'm not bad.
Am I disqualified though?
I've always liked Lita, so you're not going to get a complaint from me. When I saw Ozzy on the No Rest for the Wicked tour, I was hoping that he was going to pull Janet Gardner from Vixen, who was the opening act for that tour. I was hoping he was going to pull her out. They were going to do the song together. That would have been pretty cool. But didn't happen.
Well, I saw Janet a couple of weeks ago, folks, and she is hot. And seriously, live, she's still got it. She looks amazing. She's got a great band. And if I can get a photo, I've got a photo of her literally singing to me. So just keep talking, Mike, as I get this.
Okay, well,
when you try to find the picture on your phone, it never can. Let's see if you can do it.
That's true. I've been there. I also have my guest list to read, and that's from Jex Russell. And like Johnny Metal, Jex Russell started with a B-side. And it's one of the early B-sides. Okay, here we go. Wow. And she literally is singing right to you.
Yep, absolutely in the crowd. They had so many technical issues, and she thought, I've got to win over the crowd. So she just jumped into the crowd and started singing a song, sort of acoustically, and then it came back on and just basically singing to members of the audience. It was just fantastic. But
That's
I don't know
amazing.
much about Janet or Vixen, but they were good.
I have one album over there called Rev It Up, and I haven't actually listened to it, but we'll talk about that another day. So Jex Russell picked the B-side for his first number 5 here, and he picked One Up the B-side from the Bark at the Moon single, I believe. And it's not one of my personal favorite Ozzy B-sides myself, but it's historic for me because when I bought a little book, a 1994 release called Riff Kills Man by Martin Popoff, he mentioned this song called One Up the B-side in that book. And I was like, wait a second, Ozzy has B-sides? Now there's a whole other rabbit hole I needed to dive down and start collecting. So that's my connection with that song, is Martin Popoff kind of sending me down a rabbit hole.
I think the last time I talked to you, it was the time you were doing your Martin interview.
Yeah, that's right.
It was
We
like
had
next
Martin
week or
on.
something.
It was our first time with Martin, and I was, oh man, it was so embarrassing, Mike. It was so embarrassing. I get weak in the knees and I get starstruck when I talk to Martin Popoff. And he told me he was only good for a certain amount of time, and we were going to keep going after him. And I hit the boot from the studio button, and I kicked him out. And I was like, oh man, what if he wanted to stay longer? What if he didn't mean an hour? Anyway, long story short.
But he came back.
I get weak in the knees. He did. He came back a couple of times, and Martin's new book on Thin Lizzy looks awesome.
Oh, I'm in that. So check that out.
And maybe Johnny Middle will plug the Robert Plant book as well at some point tonight too. There you go. Okay, Mike Slayen.
Back to me.
You are at number 4. So you said before your number 1, 2, 3, 4 were set in stone from the beginning, right?
I mean, maybe the order of them, but the 4 songs, yeah, for sure.
Okay,
Absolutely.
let's hear it. This sounds epic.
Well, first of all, I want to give a quick shout out to Harrison, your buddy. To hope he gets better, whatever
Thank
he's
you.
got going on. Thoughts going out your way. He's down another hemisphere too, right?
He is down he's on the opposite side of the country from Peter Kerr,
Yeah,
but that's
he's
where he
in
lives.
Perth.
Right.
Perth.
Well, yeah, I hope he's feeling all right and getting better.
He gets
I also wanna
debilitating, so nobody's too worried. He gets debilitating migraines that knocks him out for weeks and just upsets his balance and everything. So it's going to take him a while.
I've had migraines. I get them very mildly, but it's a day of not fun. So
Yeah. So he's right now in about week 3 of not fun.
yeah, that's horrible.
Yeah.
All right, and I'm going to say my list. I think is going to be. I'm going to be the get off my lawn guy. You guys are all going creative. I just went like for my 14-year-old self.
We need that. We need that.
All right, that's all it takes. Everybody's opinion, right?
That's right.
So my 4th was Revelation, Mother Earth. Another epic song, like you said. You know that You Can't Kill Rock and Roll is 2 songs. I mean, this is definitely one of those kind of songs. Starts out quiet, builds up, has that little synth solo, and then it goes into the piano solo, and then it just goes into that absolutely ripping guitar solo at the end. The only problem is it.
Yeah.
That's Eddie Van Slayen, by the way.
Love it.
And the guy he steals my picks all the time. It's really weird.
Okay. Well, I hope he doesn't eat them.
No, I don't. I hope not to. And then it just ends with that blistering solo. The only part was it "Steal Away the Night" is after that, right?
Yeah, I think it goes right into
It's
Steal
almost
Away.
like a heartbreaker, "Live and Love and Made." It's like they have to go together. So,
And
if
did he do it
if
live
that's true, I
that
get a
way?
2 for it.
On-
What's that?
Did he do it live that way on the Randy Rhoads tribute album when I'm trying to remember the
I
set
haven't-
list
I
of
haven't put
that.
that album on for forever.
Let me have a look.
Ask and you shall receive.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
there you go, Mike. So he did it that way live. Look at that. Both of them with it on vinyl.
Well, we've got to be prepared for you.
I feel like the guy that shows up to class without a pencil now. I'm like,
Well, Mike,
prepared.
I realize the show is called Grab a Stack of Rock, and we always grab stacks of rock and show them off. But you are, in this case, the stack of rock because you are the rock guitar player god. So you don't have to bring CDs.
Next time I will.
Okay.
It's only fair.
Excellent. Oh, we have Pete Jones with his number 4, which is Bark at the Moon. Jakey Lee is spectacular, and his only sin is having to. Ooh, yeah. You know, that is true. That is true. If Jakey Lee had somehow been the first guitar player in the Ozzy Osbourne band, maybe he would be, I don't know. I don't think his profile is as high as it should be, but that's,
I agree. But
we'll
maybe
probably
Ozzy
talk.
would not be as big as he was either.
That's true, right? Because Randy had that neoclassical vibe. But you know what? We're going to get there. We have lots of picks to go. And Johnny Metal, you're going to have 2 more picks right now. You're number 4 and your friend's number 4.
Right. So, so Jake Nutt from State Farm, he stuck with the Scream album, goes to Soul Sucker.
Oh, I love it.
That I actually like that song a little bit better than I like Latimer's Mercy. The Latimer's Mercy just sounded a little too waste, too sludgy and processed sludgy, I guess, if that's such a thing. But I liked Soul Sucker. I thought that was I like the lyrics to that too. So that was a pretty good track. So mine, I'm sticking with Peter Jones's pick from the particular album, not the song, although I do like the song. But yeah, I got to go with Rock and Roll Rebel.
Yeah.
I love the riff. I love Jake's leads in that, even if he doesn't get credit for writing it. It's still a great song. I just thought, man, that was one of the few songs that on Bark at the Moon that really sunk into my bones. You know, I when I got that album in real time, I can't say I was a huge fan. I liked a few songs, but the rest of the album just didn't grab me. But Rock and Roll Rebel and Bark at the Moon certainly did. But Rock and Roll Rebel will win out on this round.
Clearly agreed with you there. It's an album standout. I got the cassette really early in my rock years, and same as you, it was after the title track, the one that jumped out first and foremost. So Bark at the Moon, good showings tonight. Peter, what do you have up your sleeve for your number 4?
Okay, well, this is off my favorite Ozzy album, and I'm probably contrarian to a lot of folk because this doesn't get enough love, but I can't explain it, but I've always been a big fan of The Ultimate Sin.
Yeah.
Ozzy doesn't like it, says it's tinny and it's too top end, but I love it. And I think this lineup was great. And Jakey Lee is just my favorite guitarist. I actually put him above Randy. I don't know why. I just think he was just a sublime guitarist. And yeah, just legendary. Anyway, the song I'm going to pick is Secret Loser. So he plays with plenty of steam on this song. It's got a lot of drama, and it's got Jakey Lee, one of the best solos on the whole album. And I'll tell you, this whole thing about Bob Daisley writing lyrics and Ozzy writing lyrics, the lyrics that Bob writes are so sharp. There's a lyric on this song called "All I Do Is Hide the Wounds Where Blood Just Won't Congeal." Can you imagine Ozzy writing a lyric like that?
I don't think Ozzy knows that word. So I shouldn't have said that.
I'm glad he met Bob, because I tell you what, Bob's lyrics are just so sharp, and he should get the recognition. And look, Ozzy will probably be inducted in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, folks. And but Bob should be up there, and a lot of other musos that have pumped him up. So anyway, that's my 5 cents.
Kevin Gartland.
Anyway, Secret Loser.
There you go, Kevin. You got Kevin Gartland on your back there, no problem. And but he can pour his own orange juice, which that's a Rock Daydream Nation reference.
Oh.
Do you want to? Let's just talk about it real quick before I take my turn. A couple of weeks ago, we posted with Peter and Johnny Metal and Pete Jones your, shall we say, retrospective on the movie The Decline of Western Civilization Part 2, The Metal Years, which Ozzy is in. And it was very well received by some and not very well received by the crowd over at Metal Sludge.
Our video, not the documentary.
Right. But
Yeah.
I would say to those guys at Metal Sludge, thank you for the views.
Yeah, look, God bless you. God bless you. And I'm sorry I'm not wearing my Rush shirt at the moment, but it will come out in a couple of weeks or so. And look, I think the point was missed was that we weren't really having a diss at, well, most of us weren't having a diss at the musicians. And I mean, we were more pointing at the documentary maker and how a lot of it was contrived, and, you know, pointing out portraying a lot of the folk in that era in a very bad light. But look, I think everybody on that show was A game. I think it was one of my best shows that I've ever done on Rock Daydream Nation. I'm proud to have all of the commentators on that show. And look, the majority of folks really loved it, and I stand by it. I think it was a cracking show.
And look at that. It brought attention back to the movie. Henry rewatched it. And Pete Jones is talking to a lawyer right now. I'm going to go with Jex Russell's number 4 pick before I do mine. Jex Russell is also on the Ultimate Sin album, and he brought in the title track. And I have a lot of memories of this music. I was sick at home with mono when that title track was released on video on Much Music, and I can remember sitting in my basement taping my music videos and seeing that video, and I honestly thought Ozzy had never really looked cooler than he did during the Ultimate Sin era. And he was big hair,
perm, right?
He did have a perm, but he looked wickedly cool in that video. He's wearing like the big suit and he's pretending he's an oil executive. I loved it. I loved the Ultimate Sin. I loved all the music videos, and I think that Ozzy kind of going in more of a hard rock direction on that album was a smart move. So good on Jex. My number 5 is a track that I think, who did I talk about this with? I talked to so many people today. I'm going with, from this fantastic album from 1988, No Rest for the Wicked, I'm going with the unlisted bonus track, Hero, which I think it was Matt Phillips I was talking to earlier from Tim's Vinyl Confessions. And we always, both of us, thought the song was called Fools No More because that's one of the only lyrics that repeats in the song. There's no real chorus. But the song is called Hero, and they, for some reason, dropped that because Black Sabbath also had a song that was going to be called Hero on the Headless Cross album, and then that ended up being Call of the Wild. Anyway, Hero. When I was listening to these Ozzy albums all week, found myself drawn back repeatedly to the ballads. I don't think Ozzy gets enough credit for ballads.
Yeah,
and he didn't do very many of them in his Black Sabbath years, although when he did, they were extremely memorable. Stuff like Solitude and Changes. There's one off of Technical Ecstasy as well. She's Gone, I think it's called.
Yeah.
Man, there's some great ballads that Ozzy did with Sabbath, but when he went solo, starting with Blizzard of Oz, he started cranking out a series of fantastic ballads. And I think, even Bark at the Moon had So Tired on it, which was a video, even if it was kind of an odd, very odd song for Ozzy. This is just epic. It's got a really great guitar riff by Zakk Wylde, chunky, and sort of an anthemic vibe to it. And I strongly recommend anybody who isn't really familiar with this album to check it out. It's the first album with Zakk. And personally speaking, it's my favorite album with Zakk. So there you go. Hero from the No Rest for the Wicked album, the unlisted bonus track. Thank you, Peter.
Mm-hmm.
And Pete Jones. Oh, okay, never mind. That's the same comment. That brings us back to Mike Slayen with your number 3 now.
All right. Well, I got one more take on who picked Amy.
Johnny.
Nice.
That was me.
I tried to get that one in. So I've been going through some life changes out this way, and I met an awesome person named Amy, and she spells it that way.
Oh, wow.
I tried everything I could to get it in the top 5, but you know what? I'm glad you brought it on the show. But it's not in his top 5 songs for me.
Well,
I'm glad
I would say that coincidence with the spelling of the name gives you any justification for including it on any list you like.
Right? It was going to be in my the extras if we get there.
Well, we'll do some extras at the end if we have any. Sure. Right. Yeah. I mean, I have one that I want to mention.
Sure. So my number 3, another epic song, Diary of a Madman. Starts out with that. I don't know if you guys probably know. It's a classical piece at the beginning. It's Leo Brouwer.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he adapted. It's Etude Number 6 by Leo Brouwer. And if you listen to it, he adapted it. He made it much more musical. It was a right-hand study. So it's just arpeggios. But he changed it more, put some more feel in it, some more space in the timing. And but that's another epic song. I mean, starts out with that kind of diminished chords at the beginning, and then it goes through all the changes, the typical Ozzy demonic chorus, with the seconds and the dissonance, and then just Randy just wails on it.
100%.
So
now I'm a complete guitar novice. So when you say that he's playing that intro right-handedly, are you meaning that he's playing open strings, or what do you mean by that?
No. So he adapted it. He didn't take it exactly from what it was. He used the chords pretty much. So if you should look it up, but I'm saying the actual study is just pure right hand study. So it's like
okay.
It's more mechanical, and Randy adapted it much more musically.
There's a really cool, like, he's got such a good rhythm during that opening bit when he just starts playing the chord. Pete Jones is in with his number 3, Miracle Man. Look at that. Some more love here. Great vocal from Ozzy, and some pretty wicked lyrics by Bob Daisley too. I'm assuming Bob Daisley. Let's just assume. And Roger,
got nothing to add.
We love Roger.
We love you, buddy. And Mike, one last thought about that song. Would you call that one of Ozzy's very heaviest songs ever?
I don't know. I've never thought of it. I mean, it gets pretty heavy at the end, but I mean, it starts out so mellow. So, it has that epic climb. So I don't know if it definitely ends as one of his heaviest.
Yeah, really. And good use of choir again, too.
Right.
There was a lot of good use of choir on those first few Ozzy albums.
Absolutely. I remember the Rolling Stones. They absolutely panned that album, and they were very critical with Ozzy's vocals. They said that it sounded like he was swallowing razor blades. I remember it to this day. But Rolling Stones never reviewed any albums that I liked very favorably, but that was one that really stuck in my mind.
Clueless.
They totally got it wrong.
Spoiler alert, probably my favorite Ozzy album. So
it is my favorite album. Yeah.
Johnny Metal, bring us your 2 lists for number 3.
Right. So Jake, not from State Farm, he's going to stay on a particular album for the rest of his. So his number 3 was Devil's Daughter. So more love for No Rest for the Wicked, and more to follow for him. So there you go. And actually that was the first time I actually saw him, was on that tour. So anyway. So so Devil's Daughter, my number 3, Jex, you took mine, because it was the ultimate sin. So and I'm going to stick with the ultimate sin, because I still recall listening to that first time, and that stomping rhythm, yes, that swagger in Ozzy's vocal and melody line, and I sadly had a vinyl copy of that album, and I met Boris Vallejo at a comic book store and got him to sign it. And wow. I was downsizing because of life situations, and I got rid of it. So I don't have that anymore, and I wish I did. But I met Boris Vallejo and got him to sign that cover, and that was pretty darn cool. That man was jacked. I'll just say that. And so was Julie, his wife. But anyway, Ultimate Sin. I just absolutely love that track. I was singing the song earlier, listening to it, and I just felt this enormous swagger just come over me as I'm going through it. It just has something there that I just absolutely dig about it. So there you go.
Is that our first repeat track?
I think it is.
Okay, you know what that means.
Repetition! Repetition! Repetition!
Mr.
Oh, dear.
That's not going to be the first time we see a repeat, I have a feeling.
Well, I don't have to play that every time, but I did want to play it once tonight.
You played that about 10 times at Christmas time, remember, Mike? That episode?
I did. But that was 2 months ago, Peter. I'm off the hook.
That's true.
But that brings us to you with your number 3.
Yeah, look, the 90s was a strange time for metal, wasn't it? A lot of metal bands were sort of like raw prawns on out in the sun. But Ozzy's career kept on keeping on, and love her or hate her, Sharon kept him relevant with the Ozfest and putting all the new and hip and happening bands just to keep him relevant with the kids. So he still had that sort of generation of 90s audience following him. The album that really sort of in the midst of grunge and alternative that kept me hooked into metal, and it was like a shining light of Ozzy and hard rock per se, was this album. I think this is a truly great album. No More Tears. And my third pick is No More Tears. It's epic. It's 7 minutes of, it's like prog in a way. It's sort of symphonic. It sounds fresh. It's got a little bit of the heritage of 70s Aussie, 80s Aussie, but it sort of incorporates the sounds of what was happening then with alternative music. I love Bob Daisley's hypnotic bass lines. And this is actually the last album that Bob actually played bass on, and that was it. So I love it. No More Tears. And this is probably the last truly great Aussie album, in my opinion.
I love the guitar tone on that song too.
Yeah. Yes. Many thoughts about that pick, Peter. I also thought it was very progressive when I first heard it back in the summer of '91, and that was the edited single version that I first heard. I always thought it was Mike Inez on bass, to be honest with you, but I'm sure you know better than I. And I think the only loss to No More Tears is that it was at the time being written with Geezer Butler. And he and Zakk Wylde had planned on doing some cool unison runs on bass guitar. And I do wonder in an alternate universe what it might have sounded like if Geezer had stayed in the band instead of, I believe he returned to Black Sabbath, but I may be wrong. Anyway, brilliant pick. Thank you, Peter. Yeah, he did return to Black Sabbath because they did their Dio reunion. Yeah. I wonder if we're going to see more love for No More Tears tonight. I can tell you that my next pick is also from the 90s. And I, again, went with a ballad. You may remember No More Tears. Two of the biggest hits were ballads, but I went with Osmosis and the ballad See You on the Other Side, which is the side one closer. And it is so haunting. It's about literally communicating with someone after they have passed, a loved one, and that love endures beyond the Great Divide, And I think it's the worst album cover Ozzy's ever done. But I think this is a good solid half of an album here. I think that you've got at least 5 great songs and 5 that aren't as great. Diminishing returns as you go through Ozzy's solo career largely. See You on the Other Side, though, it has a watery, is the way I'll describe it, watery guitar tone. I don't know.
Awesome. That's a great.
You know what I'm talking about, Mike, and you probably could tell me what effects pedals Zakk is using.
I was thinking about that because that's one of my honorable mentions for sure. I don't know what effects he's using, but he mastered them. Yeah. The timing on the delays and the choruses, whatever he has on there.
That's what it is. It's a delay.
Reminds me of Hear About It Later by Van Halen.
Yes.
Just perfect use of effects.
Very atmospheric. And there you go. Peter Kerr has excellent things. Ethereal. And his cat's middle name is Osmosis. So we've got what was his name? Your cat?
Eddie Van Slayen.
Eddie Van Slayen, and we have Osmosis. I don't really have too much more to say about this. There's an earlier version on the Prince of Darkness box set, but I didn't really get to listen to that in my research this week. I don't think there's anything wrong with the final version. I think that haunting atmospheric tone is just killer. And once again, late in his career, Ozzy pulls out some wicked ballads. So
it was so hard to leave that one off. Like every time I hear it come on, I'm like, it's got to go in. And then I'm like, I heard You Can't Kill Rock and Roll. I'm like, nah, I can't take that one out.
And speaking of repetition, Jax Russell's number 3 is Diary of a Madman, which was just picked by Mike Slayen. So we don't need to regurgitate anything about that, except to say we have some guys with some great taste here tonight. That brings us back to Mike Slayen. So we're done number 3. We're on to number 2.
Dang, getting up there.
We are.
Number 2 for me.
Racing by.
Another Randy Rhoads song, Mr. Crowley. So, I mean, if you're going to go with Ozzy as the Prince of Darkness, you got to have that demonic keyboard. There you go. I have that.
Johnny, we're going to do a zoom in just to get a better look at that real quick. Solo. There we go. Nice. That is a beauty. Can you
I
flip
should have
it?
brought my stack of rock.
Oh, look at that. I love how the record hole is in his tongue.
It looks like a piercing.
Yep. Yep. From that rare period where Ozzy had his tongue pierced. That's great.
Yeah, so it starts out with that demonic keyboard thing, which is kind of his trademark, and harkens to the Sabbath. And then that solo, I mean, by Randy is just one of his best. I mean, it's so classically just like perfection.
I'm just sorry. I was distracted by reading Roger's comments. I don't think he's sober.
I'm not either.
Hang on. There we go. There. I'm. Oh, he is 100% sober. There we go. I'm leaving. I'm not really 100% sure what he's saying. Henry read a biography of the real Aleister Crowley. Very interesting figure. Also a novel with a character inspired by him later. Interesting. Pete Jones, number 2, Over the Mountain. Oh my God. Love the drum opening from Lee Kerslake. Randy's improvement from the debut is already on full display. His guitar tone on the second album, it just became so much thicker, compared to the first one, which sounds relatively thin.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Thank
And
you, Pete Jones.
Over the Mountain was one of my honorables for number 5.
We can't talk about Mr. Crowley, though, without giving a huge shout out to Don Airey on keyboards. Because, Don Airey was critical to those early Ozzy albums. Okay, so this brings us to Jake, not from
State Farm.
There you go, not from State Farm.
He's sticking with No Rest for the Wicked. Bloodbath in Paradise.
Ooh, yes.
So that's another great track from that album. It's been so long since I listened to that one, but very, very solid album.
That's about the Manson murders.
I believe so. Yes.
Yeah, because there's that lyric, Charlie and the family made house calls.
Yeah, that's right. So I hate to be repetitious, but sorry, y'all. Mr. Crowley. That's going to be my number 2.
It's a great song.
I mean, really, I could probably make all of my top 5 pretty much anything from mostly Diary or Blizzard.
Right.
But you don't want to be too predictable, I guess, or too samey, I guess. But come on, Mr. Crowley, that D minor riff, that amazing guitar solo of Randy's, that beautiful interlude bridge with the keyboard and guitar and everything. Oh, that leads into that amazing outro solo.
And Johnny, let's point out, Blizzard of Oz, the entire album made it onto the Randy Rhoads live tribute album. The entire album, even D. So
yeah,
you can't be faulted for a little repetition here.
Nope.
And Peter Kerr, I'm wondering if you will give us repetition.
No, I won't. But I'm going to focus off this album, Diary of a Madman, and I'm going to pick Flying High again. But the version that I'm going to spotlight is off this album. I actually heard this album because I got into Ozzy late in the day before I heard the first 2 studio albums. So I'm kind of ingrained the live version, and it just absolutely sparkles. Like Randy was just something else live, wasn't he? Flying High again. And Bob wrote this song. He was just talking to somebody that was sober, and they were talking about drug use. And there's a little bit of social commentary in it. There's a lot of lyrics in those first 2 albums that, they're not throwaway heavy metal lyrics. There's a little bit of social observations. There's a little bit of social commentary. And Bob, in the interview with me, said that he got a review from Sounds, I think, or one of those music press, and said it was the thinking person's heavy metal album. And he said, I'll take that.
One lyric, the one about black and white is red. I believe Bob Daisley pointed that out as one of those lyrics. He said, there's no way Ozzy could have written that lyric. And
as a person in my whole bubble now about Ozzy.
Well, no, by all means, no, because the albums are as great as they ever were, Mike. But the fact is that Ozzy and Sharon have not always played fairsies with writing credits, and that
is true.
And Bob Daisley and Ozzy used to be really good pals. You know, they were teammates in this band. We're back to Mr. Crowley here. Okay, that's interesting. I've so much Bruce Dickinson stuff here. He's got an obsession with Aleister Crowley, and he wrote a song called "The Magician." And of course, Jimmy Page, we know he was obsessed with Crowley and
Big time.
did a lot of drugs in that house, as I recall. The story goes. So I'm blown away here by everybody's picks. I'm doing this album too for my number 2. But again, I'm drawn to ballads. And Peter mentioned he was late getting into Ozzy, that he heard the tribute album long before the first 2. Yes. Same with me. It was my birthday gift, summer of '87. My birthday gift included going to see the movie Spaceballs in the theater that year. But I remember sitting in my bunk bed.
May the Schwartz be with you.
May the Schwartz be with you. I remember sitting in my bunk bed listening to the Randy Rhoads tribute album and kind of like steeling myself for the experience. Like, I've heard about this Randy Rhoads guy. I've heard that he is like up there with Eddie Van Halen, is the number, top 5 guitar player in the world. Let's hit play, hitting play and then hearing this music on the tribute album. But the one track that jumped out at me so much was Goodbye to Romance. And I think the live version is superior. I probably should have pulled that CD out. But here's the studio version of Goodbye to Romance. And it's just a pretty song. Of all the ballads that I've picked so far tonight, it's just the most purely pretty, soft, lovely, whatever words you want to use, Ozzy ballad.
No, it's a beautiful song.
It's a remarkable song.
But isn't it funny when you think about it? Randy Rhoads, 4 studio albums, and he's a legend.
Yeah.
Just 4 studio albums.
And 2 that nobody hears.
And it's 42 years ago.
Yeah. And let's be frank, and I know, JC, you might have a different view. Those Quiet Riot albums aren't flash.
Mm-hmm.
And Bob Daisley, I said to Bob, you guys were taking a bit of a gamble because he didn't really have much game. He didn't have much of a reputation. He goes, yeah, it was a huge gamble to bring Randy into the band, and it paid off.
Yeah,
for sure.
Kevin DuBrow from Quiet Riot was obviously very close with Randy during those years. And he said when they were doing that Quiet Riot reissue, the Randy Rhoads Years reissue, they remixed all the guitars. And what they were aiming for in the remix was a vibe similar to the Ozzy Randy Rhoads tribute live CD, because apparently, according to Randy, that sound that he had at that period of time, that was his favorite guitar tone. And if you listen to those early Quiet Riots, like we talked about Blizzard being relatively thin compared to Diary, those Quiet Riot albums, it's very thin guitar-wise. Like, they hadn't discovered double tracking yet. And one of Mrs. Rhodes' complaints, yes, there it is, Quiet Riot 2. One of her complaints was that the songs, they just weren't good enough. They hadn't written enough good songs yet. And that's why she resisted those albums being reissued as is. And that's why they have not been reissued until now, because Mrs. Rhodes passed away 5-7 years ago, whatever. But she was very much against releasing those Quiet Riot albums because she felt the songs were a detriment to her son's legacy. And that's why Kevin DuBrow had to do so much remixing work to get that Randy Rhoads Years compilation out. Every song in that album was re-recorded except for one. Think about that. Re-recorded, as in brand new lead vocals. The guitar tracks were re-recorded through Carlos Cavazzo's amps to get that sound.
And some of those songs weren't even on those original 2 albums. There was
that's
a couple
right.
of unreleased stuff. So not all of those songs weren't even on the thing.
That's right.
So yeah.
And it's an interesting release. Anyway, that's my number 2. We have to go to Jex's number 2. No More Tears. There you go. So that's another hit for No More Tears. And there's nothing else I can really say. We've praised that song tremendously, and I think it deserves every bit of praise.
For sure.
It's just a hand in the bush. I don't know what that means. Well, that's it. This is round 5, which is number 1, and this is it. This is the end. So, Mike, it's up to you. You gotta do this. You take us out, man.
I'm going to be interesting, or it will be interesting to see if this is a slam dunk, all 4 of us. But I've been teaching guitar for a long time, and I get a lot of kids that are like staring at the walls. And when I pull this one out, they all go, "Yeah, I know that." It's the riff. It's Crazy Train.
Okay. Yeah.
Not only is it an epic song, it's overplayed. So, I could see not wanting to put it on a list like this, but I mean, it's a great song, great solo. And I had season tickets for there used to be a NFL team in San Diego. Won't go mention because they left. I had season tickets for 30 years. They play it every single game for 30 years. They played Crazy Train.
Wow.
I
think it was only overplayed post Tribute. Really, that was my first exposure to that song. Was hearing it as the lead single from Tribute, and now on the Osbournes they did that version with what's his name that lived next door to them, whose name I'm forgetting. The lounge version of Crazy Train. You know the one I'm talking about. And then, I
don't know if you guys remember, or maybe you guys didn't see it in Canada. There was a commercial with some kid sitting in the back seat, and he has like a soda straw, and he's like, and they're like, they kind of doing the song in the back of the back seat of the car, and it comes out to be Crazy Train. And that gave it a read.
Pat Boone. Thank you, Reed. Thank you. That's who I was thinking of. Pat Boone.
Cheers.
Yes. Man, I'm telling you, these brain farts are really, they're getting worse as I get older.
Yeah. But that Crazy Train, I've seen that in kids' cartoons. I think Minions or something like that. It's all part of pop culture now. I think more folk. Yeah. Would it be fair to say more folk in America know that song than a Black Sabbath song?
Probably.
The riff.
It's one of the most epic. I think it's one of the most epic, recognizable riffs for sure. Yeah. It's up there with Smoke on the Water, honestly.
Yeah. So more folk would know that riff than say Paranoid or War Pigs.
Yeah,
I would say so.
Or Iron Man.
I would say so.
Iron Man's close.
Yeah, I think Iron Man's getting closer thanks to the Marvel movies, but
yeah. But even then, it was kind of, these songs, they didn't have music videos, these Black Sabbath songs. So in the 80s, during my time, Ozzy was on TV all the time.
Yeah.
It was hard to find Black Sabbath music because nobody was playing it back then.
And those albums didn't sell like hotcakes in the day. It was only probably after Randy passed and Ozzy started to generate some sales with Bark at the Moon that people started to go to those earlier albums, and it ticks over. So I don't think they charted really that well in America or the UK.
I read an interview with Ozzy that dated back to 1990, and he was reminiscing back to the Ultimate Sin tour when Metallica was opening, and he thought Metallica were, to use the phrase that the British use, taking the piss, because he would walk past the rehearsal room and they'd be rehearsing Sabbath songs. And he thought, those fucking guys, what the hell? Why are they doing that? Like, why would they do that to me? Play those riffs. And then he realized these guys are Sabbath nuts. There are people who are Sabbath nuts. And Ozzy at that time kind of felt like Sabbath were an embarrassment, a relic of the past, dated. It's interesting how time changes, and Sabbath really came into their own in the 90s when all these grunge bands started saying, we were influenced by Black Sabbath. And everybody was comparing grunge to Black Sabbath, which I found bizarre because Pearl Jam sounded nothing like Black Sabbath and neither did Nirvana. And so it goes. Yeah. Pete Jones, #1, Diary of a Madman, the ultimate Randy Ozzy era track. The maturity from the beginning of Blizzard to the closing of this album is remarkable. Such a horrible and unnecessary loss still breaks my heart. Well said, Pete Jones. Isn't it remarkable how Pete Jones is not this bitter, angry man that we've been led to believe by the media?
Not in the least bit.
I find references to use of Crazy Train in Megamind and Trolls World.
Yes, that was the cartoons that I was referring to.
There you go. Cool.
Pop culture.
All right, so we have Crazy Train as Mike's #1. Johnny Metal, bring us to #1.
All right. Well, there you go. There's your chart action for you. Okay, so again, thank you to Jake, not from State Farm, for his list. Sticking with the No Rest for the Wicked. He's breaking all the rules.
It's a great song.
So yeah, very, very catchy song. Probably my favorite song on that album. I love that. I always did like that song. So a good strong track. But yeah, for me, I remember March 20th, 1982 pretty well. I remember seeing the articles in my newspaper at home that talks about a plane crash and I'm like, oh my, no. And I was just starting to hear Ozzy on the radio a lot at that time. We had a rock radio station, Z95, that played a lot. You usually heard Crazy Train. You usually heard Flying High Again. You usually heard sometimes I Don't Know. So those three tracks you usually heard quite a bit. But yeah. What could have been?
Yeah.
When I listened to that title track, what could have been?
Yeah.
The title track will always be my favorite Ozzy Osbourne track.
Nice.
Hands down, no arguments. It will always win out over the hits. There's just something magical and something beautiful about Diary of a Madman.
Yeah.
I love Randy's little 8-bar solo.
Yeah.
That just speaks so much emotion. You get these little long held notes. You get that little kind of almost like an Egyptian kind of Middle Eastern kind of vibe in the solo. And then you get that quick little end fast run and it's just perfect. So
lots of love for Jakey Lee here, by the way.
Yes.
But Johnny Metal, this is like either the third or fourth time that we've heard a Diary of a Madman come up on these lists. So people, you need to check out that song. You need to check out that album. If for some reason you haven't, you need to. And I'm glad that you mentioned that sort of Middle Eastern vibe that you get during the solo. A lot of people, they associate Randy with more of that neoclassical vibe that he was bringing. But then we take that left turn into that distinctly sort of Middle Eastern bit. That's it. Yeah. That's it. That's the one. Yeah.
I think it's a diminished scale.
I think it is diminished, but I don't know, Middle Eastern something. Yeah, that's kind of what made me kind of feel. But yeah,
the one that like Iron Maiden used to use for their Middle Eastern is
on Power Slave. Yes, right. That's it. Yeah.
All roads lead to Richie Blackmore. That's all I got to say.
Well, that's not untrue. That is not untrue. But you could argue Jimmy Page was doing it too. Ernesto, coolest name on YouTube is Johnny Metal. Well, he's not wrong. He's not wrong. Thank you.
There's actually a movie coming out called Johnny Metal, starring John Clauser.
Oh, there you go. Well, there you go. Ernesto, that check's in the mail. So.
Netflix only, though. Unfortunately, we couldn't get a cinematic deal for the Johnny Metal.
The Lithuanian Netflix only.
Right. Yeah, we're trying to get expanded worldwide, but right now only Lithuania has been interested in the story. Anyway.
Oh well.
Peter, it's time, man. It's your number one.
It's time.
It's number one.
All right. Off Blizzard of Oz.
There it is.
I have picked I Don't Know. I always love that track. It's a cracker of a track. I just love the fast and furious guitar work. And I'll put a shout out for Living Loud, which was a little solo project that Bob Daisley did with Jimmy Barnes of Cold Chisel, Australia, Lee Kerslake, and Steve Morse do a cracking version of that song. Check it out on YouTube.
I think Harrison has mentioned this before. Sorry.
What's that, Mike?
Does it open the album? It's not Crazy Train, right? I don't know.
No.
Yeah. I don't know.
But and the tribute version is absolutely outstanding. And Mike, did you ever get this box set in the day?
No, I did not.
Yeah, so this is one that just came out. I got it in the day, and it's got all the albums and a nice little sort of got a big booklet and poster and all that sort of thing that I've kept.
Oh, Johnny's got it too.
Sorry, there you go.
So what is that? The when they did the reissue of the original mixes of Blizzard and Diary? Is that what that is?
No, it retains the. Oh, there you go. He's got it. No, it's got the original mixes, but not a word or reference to Lee or Bob. Bob didn't even know about it. It's just one of those things that the Sharon factory just brings out, and there it is.
Yo, says Jesse. And Reed Little thinks that Johnny Metal would be a heel. I don't know. Would he be a heel if he was a professional wrestler? I don't think so. I don't think he would. I think he'd be Mr. Nice Guy.
Yeah. So, anyway, that's my number one. I don't know. That's it.
And I also think that's one of those lyrics that there's no way Ozzy could have come up with that lyric on his own. But we don't want to shatter any illusions tonight. No, we don't. Jex Russell's number one is a song that we've already heard from. I think 4 of his 5 tracks were repeats. He's done Bark at the Moon for his number one. And I think that was probably the first Ozzy song I ever heard as a kid. The music video was really cool. The whole idea of Ozzy turning into a werewolf was brilliant. It played up that whole monster horror vibe that was in vogue at the time. The thing I remember most about that music video is there's a shot of Carmine Appice where he's playing the drums and like does it like the face shot in the video. You know the shot I'm talking about. And you can barely see Jake. Jake's like shrouded in fog and shadow. You can barely see him, but there's that one shot of Carmine Appice. Excellent choice from Jex. My number one. Sorry, folks. I did it. I went all ballads. And my favorite Ozzy ballad is a song called Old L.A. Tonight. It's a piano ballad, and it's beautiful. And this album came out in 1995, and I had just broken up with my first serious girlfriend. And I remember this CD coming into my store used. First week of release came in used. So it gave me an opportunity to play it. And I remember Old L.A. Tonight coming on, and hitting back and playing it again. Hitting back and playing again. It's not like the lyrics had anything to do with my relationship. It's just the music was touching me in a way, you know? And Ozzy hits a lot of high notes on this album that were, it sounds like they were just slightly out of his range, but he went for it anyway. And Old LA Tonight has some notes in that chorus that I can't hit. I just love the song. I love it. And Zach's solo, oh my God, it's sublime. It is sublime. There's very few songs that I can sit and listen to on repeat. I don't like to listen to songs on repeat, but Old LA Tonight is one of them. Has a lot of personal meaning to me. And I think even without that personal meaning, it's a stellar song that does not get enough credit. I highly doubt it was ever played live, and that's a shame. It's kind of weird for me to put that at my number one and have all ballads as my Ozzy list. But once my list started taking shape with so many ballads, I decided to go with it and commit to the shtick. So there you go. I guess my number one favorite Ozzy song of all time is a ballad, Old LA Tonight from Osmosis. And that's it. And that's it.
Very good.
Oh, and see you, Henry. Take care. Thank you for watching. Pete Jones, honorable mention. Little Dolls.
That whole album. It was hard not to pick everything on that album.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's talk honorable mentions. I want to mention a B-side. I think the best song from No More Tears was actually not on No More Tears. I think it's a song called Don't Blame Me. It's heavier than anything on No More Tears. It's got more groove to it. And I wish it had been on the album. The album was originally supposed to be called Don't Blame Me. So that's my runner-up would be Don't Blame Me, another B-side. Anybody else? What do you got for runners-up, Mike?
I wanted to put Fire in the Sky in there so bad. That song on
another one. Look, folks.
No Rest for the Wicked is getting a lot of love for this tonight, man.
Yes.
That song, it's another epic. I mean, it's drawn out. It's got great solos. It's got great guitar tone.
And I like that. I assume it's a keyboard that's doing it. That hum, hum, hum at the beginning. I assume it's a keyboard, but I don't know.
Yeah, either that or some kind of sampled vocal or.
Yeah. But Ozzy, again, we're back to sort of like that choir idea. He's got so many great songs with those kind of backing vocals, those angelic.
It reminds me of Hero at the beginning. They both kind of start out the same.
They're similar. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The first time I played the album, I was like, what is this? Is this the same song again? It was unlisted. What is going on? Great. Johnny Metal, any runners up you want to mention?
Yeah, well, Jake did not give me any runners up, but one that I wanted to put on there, but I was like, well, I didn't want to put one from too many of the same album. But I mean, if I mentioned the side B closer for Diary of a Madman, you got to talk about the side A closer. Bow,
Yeah.
bow, 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 bow. I love Believer just as much. I love that riff, that ridiculous riff, the chugging everything, a
lot of dissonant strings going on there with the guitar too.
I remember on that song. I remember I saw them live on that tour. I just remember Rudy Sarzo. He had these big red Superman boots on, and he was just like, boom, 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 just burned.
He's a great showman. Rudy Sarzo is one of the greatest live showmen on bass.
Yeah,
for sure. Man, excellent. Yeah. Peter Kerr, what's a runner-up that you want to
mention?
Look,
I've got a few. I love "Thank God for the Bomb" off Ultimate Sin, and that bit where he goes, "Oh God," and then Jake E. Lee just comes into this monstrous guitar solo. I love that. Hellraiser, Lemmy, and Ozzy. It was nice that he helped Lemmy out, and I think it's just a cracking song. And Shot in the Dark, I think it's a perfectly crafted like pop metal song.
Yeah,
that still holds up really well. So that's just a couple of ones off the top of my head.
We've seen a ton of love for Jake E. Lee tonight, and of course Randy Rhoads. We even got some picks from the Gus G album, the Scream album. Has every Aussie guitarist been checked off tonight? Pretty much. Yeah. Man, I had such a great time listening to all this Aussie all this week. It was so good. And I think it's easy to lose track over the years of the fact that Ozzy was a great singer at one point. Like any of us, his voice has aged and he gets by, but back in those early days, man, he could sing with a real serious passion. He could hit some high notes. And it was just a joy listening to all this great music this week. So I just want to thank Peter Kerr, first of all, for suggesting this list.
All good.
Brilliant. I want to thank Mike Slayen for asking to come on recently and us being able to put this together. And Johnny Metal, of course, always welcome. I will be seeing two of you guys around this time tomorrow for another super secret project. But let's just go around real quick and talk about what each of us has going on. Mike Slayen, what is going on down in San Diego?
Yeah. By the way, this is Jake E. Lee's hometown.
Oh, that's right.
I should have picked one of his songs, but I didn't. So I got a band called Relay that's starting to play out. We actually started several months ago. This band's had way more than its fair share of tragedy and life, and so hopefully we're getting back up and rolling again. And then I'm celebrating 25 years of the Guitar Aces.
Nice.
This is my guitar studio where I basically teach preteens guitar, and it's been a blast. A lot of great kids, a lot of great families, but 25 years. So
you don't have any copies of this still for sale, do you?
They're around. You can listen to it on Spotify.
There you go. Listen to it on Spotify. Although this isn't rock, as you can tell by the cover, that's Mike with his alternate look. This is for when he plays.
I was going classical. Legit. I was going legit for a while.
This is a brilliant album, by the way. I was very happy to have been one of the crowdfunders for this CD.
You were one of the few, Mike. It was so awesome that you pitched in. I mean, that's started.
It's worth it.
That's cool stuff.
It's a great album. And we enjoy listening to it when we want to be mellow. So check it out on Spotify, dude.
Download it on Spotify right now.
Oh, there you go.
I'll check it out.
You listen to it about 1,000 times a day for the next 10 years. I think I get my $20.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, the revenue from Spotify. Well,
we have a goal.
I love what I do.
You must.
Right.
Johnny Metal, I know you are very, very busy. You're about halfway through the Judas Priest discography?
Yes. We're going to be recording Defenders of the Faith this weekend. So that's been a fun series. It's been really helping me just absolutely almost rediscover how good early Priest was. Even though my point of entry, no pun intended, was Screaming for Vengeance. Boy, that early, you just can't go wrong with that early stuff. Man, that was just so good. So I'm glad we've been doing that series. For anybody who does still read books, I had the chance to contribute to Martin Popoff's album by album series for Robert Plant, Pictures at 11. There's only 3 albums that I contribute to on this, but to know that I'm actually featured in a book, that just kind of blows my mind. It still blows my mind.
Yeah.
So there you go. But it's on Martin's site. Go check it out. I don't know how well it's selling for him, but I imagine it's going to go gangbusters, I'm sure. So
absolutely. And there's some other names in there you may recognize as well. I believe Tim's in there and a few other folks that you may recognize.
Yes.
And finally, Peter, who just interviewed Bob Daisley. Check it out on Rock Daydream Nation. I know you have lots of stuff cooking. What can you talk about?
Yeah, I've got a few things on. So on Rock Daydream Nation, just did a show with Reed Little, picking the top 10 greatest Black Sabbath albums. So that was a hell of a lot of fun and wild choices, but that's been pretty well received. And the great Peter Jones and I are back continuing our Purple Family Tree series. We do the Battle Rages on.
Yeah, I saw
so
that.
We've got some pretty polarizing views on that one, and so must see TV. That'll drop, I think, tomorrow. And check your local YouTube guide. The Battle Rages on.
So to recap, subscribe to Rock Daydream Nation on YouTube. Subscribe to gotta get the right corner. My Music Corner on YouTube, and check out Mike Slayen's album, Dude, a guitar CD on your Spotify. Anything else you guys want to talk about before we chill out and take off for the night?
Subscribe to Grab a Stack of Rock.
I guess you could.
If you're watching and you haven't subscribed.
There you go. Thank you, Peter. I always forget the most important things. And thank you, Peter Jones. Thank you, Henry. Thank you, Reed. Thank you, Jesse, Ernesto, everybody for watching tonight. And it's always an honor to be on screen with you gentlemen. I will see 2 of you tomorrow for a secret recording project. In the meantime, we always like to go out on a song. And this time, I think we will pick... Oh, we talked about Black Sabbath's song, Call of the Wild. So we're going to play Max the Axe's song called Call of the Wild. So this is some Max the Axe. See you on Monday for a special pre-recorded Brighton Rock episode of Grab a Stack of Rock with new co-host Len LaBelle. Check that out Monday. This is some Max the Axe, and we will see you next time. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers.
Cheers.